Bonsoir tout le monde, bienvenue à
Good
cette
evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Standing Committee on Public Policy and Strategy. It is February 21st. The city of Dieppe recognizes that the land on which it operates is part of the unceded traditional ancestral lands of the Mi'kmaq. The peace and friendship treaties that the Mi'kmaq jointly developed and signed with the British Crown in the 18th century apply to this territory. The treaties did not deal, sorry, I'm stumbling over myself here. The treaties did not deal with the surrender of land or resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq title and set out the rules for what was to be a lasting relationship between the parties. All right, that said, we will start our meeting with item number 1, presentation, strategic plan, the 2022 review. And to speak to us about this review, we have Ms. Marie-Claude Landry and Marc Melançon with us. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, colleagues and members of council. So tonight, we're going to summarize the achievements of 2022. And to do that, I would ask Marie-Claude Landry, who is responsible for strategic planning, among other duties. We'll get her to start off. Thank you, Your Worship and councillors. I am very happy to present this review of the activities that were conducted in 2022 in terms of strategic planning. So what was accomplished in that regard. So the mission of the city is to shine as an inclusive and modern Francophone city that's proud of its Acadian roots and provides first-rate services and infrastructure in harmony with the environment. Our vision is to be a welcoming, and inclusive rather, and modern, welcoming, dynamic and ecologically responsible city. And our values, of course, are integrity, inclusion, and innovation. Now, in terms of strategic planning, we chose 6 strategic pillars. So pillar 1 is community and cultural development. 2, the development of a green and sustainable city. 3, economic development and prosperity. 4, excellence in urban planning and infrastructure. 5, citizenship participation. And 6, excellence in governance and municipal management. So each of those strategic pillars, there are specific objectives. So I'm going to go through each of the strategic pillars and provide you just with a reminder of what those objectives are. And then for each objectives, I will talk about the achievements that were made during the year. So community and cultural development. So there were 4 objectives: to develop and promote the development of the Francophone community and foster the sense of Acadian pride, enhance inclusiveness in programming offerings and cultural and recreational activities. 3, promote the sense of belonging and commitment of citizens. And 4, to maximize the use of public and community spaces and facilities. So to develop and promote the development of the Francophone community and the sense of Acadian pride, we submitted a brief as part of the review of the Official Languages Act. We promoted Acadian Day. We obtained the 2025 Acadie Games. We sent a delegation to Dieppe, France, in Normandy, as part of the 80th anniversary of D-Day. And we celebrated Dieppe's 70th anniversary of incorporation. Under enhancing inclusion in cultural and recreational programming and activities, in 2022, we developed the Recreation Master Plan, which will be in effect for the next 10 years. There was a partnership that was established between CAFI and settlement activities in the city. And we gave Café Inclusio a privileged rate to set up shop in Dwaron House. So, and if you have any questions, please stop me. For objective number 3, to foster the sense of belonging and commitment of citizens, we improved our relationship with our citizens, and more specifically the homeless population. And then for maximizing the use of public and community spaces and facilities, under that theme, we collaborated with the artistic direction of the Dieppe Arts and Cultural Center. We wanted to expand that center's offerings. In terms of development of a green and sustainable city, there were 4 objectives as well. So 1 was to update and implement the sustainable development strategy. 2, protect our green spaces and continue the development of parks and trails that enhance Dieppe's nature and ecological diversity. 3, enhance our natural features such as our rivers and our marshes. And 4, to improve and promote various modes of transportation and travel. So with respect to updating and implementing the Sustainable Development Strategy, we did the AGL Center's Net Zero Renovation Project. We installed a heat recovering system and solar panels at the AGL Center. There was also a tree management project on private property, and that led to 3,140 trees and seedlings being planted. Now, there were 6 initiatives that were aimed at reducing greenhouse gases. Those initiatives allowed us to reduce our energy consumption by 976.4 gigajoules rather, sorry, or 78.65 tons for 2022. To protect our green spaces and continue the development of parks and trails that enhance Dieppe's nature and ecological diversity, we did some route planning, and we started the Dieppe to Shediac Trail project. With respect to enhancing our natural features, we also installed new signage along the riverfront trail. To improve and promote various modes of transportation and travel in the city, we developed an active transportation master plan. We created the position of mobility director, and we're actually the only city in the region to have this expertise in-house. We obtained funding to purchase buses and bus shelters, and we renewed and extended our paratransit and shuttle service agreements. There was also an awareness campaign on the sharing of trails between cyclists and pedestrians. And there was an on-demand transportation pilot project as well. Now, in terms of economic development and prosperity, there were 4 objectives again. 1, continue the densification of the downtown area and develop a cultural life there. Develop an environment conducive to business development through a culture of innovation and creativity, making Dieppe a tourist destination and becoming the destination of choice for Francophone immigration to Atlantic Canada. So in terms of densification of the downtown area and the development of a cultural life, we carried out, in collaboration with Expansion Dieppe, a downtown parking study. There were also a number of development and new construction projects in the downtown area. And then there were a number of cultural activities as well, such as the Mercredi show or the Wednesday show, the Fun on Ice and Friday night show, the Salon du Livre de Dieppe Book Fair, and the World Festival. With respect to developing an environment conducive to business development through a culture of innovation and creativity, we lowered the municipal tax. There was an increase in home values of 40%, and there was a lot of innovation and productivity improvement within companies in Dieppe. And in fact, there were 7 companies in Dieppe that are in the startup phase, and 11 are in a growth or stabilization phase. With regard to making Dieppe a tourist destination, here's what we did. We participated or contributed to, we actually have a partnership with Destination Dieppe, Moncton Dieppe, which promotes tourism in the region. And we also hosted significant events such as the Country Fest YQM and the Mountain Bike Canada Cup. We also enhanced our event posting program. So we hosted 4 major programs, events. So the Canada Winter Games Challenge Cup, 230 athletes, the M11 and M12 competitive tournament, 50 teams, the 22 DGL tournament, 67 teams, and then there was the high school hockey classic as well with 31 teams. And all of those and those were ringette and hockey tournaments. Now, in terms of becoming the destination of choice for Francophone immigrants to the Atlantic region, here's what we did. We created an immigration service within the city of Dieppe, an immigration department, rather. We established a memo of understanding with Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. We chair the Francophone Immigration Watch Committee of the local immigration partnership. And working with CAFI, we had a positive assessment of Francophone immigration in Dieppe. We also participated in 4 regional job fairs and 2 welcome and settlement fairs that were geared to newcomers. We also participated in 3 panels to talk about our municipality as part of the Destination Canada Mobility Forum that took place in Paris. With respect to land use planning and quality infrastructure, we have 4 objectives. 1, to encourage the development of already serviced land within the city limits, maintain existing infrastructure in good condition according to recognized standards. 3, to stimulate the development of the area according to the already well-defined poles. And 4, to improve and optimize existing infrastructure and add new infrastructure to meet the future needs of the municipality. So, with respect to objective 1, to encourage development of already serviced land and so forth, we saw an increase of investment in the downtown area. There were 4 or 5 downtown development projects valued at $30.1 million and initiated by Expansion Dieppe. And we also offered support for the management of private development projects, and there were more than 20 of those. 2022 was also a record year for building permits issued. We approved 699 new housing units, and that led to an overall municipal tax base increase of 14.77%. In terms of objective number 2, maintaining existing infrastructure in good condition according to recognized standards, here's what we accomplished. We had the condition of our road infrastructure assessed. 93% of the municipal road network is in good or very good condition. We carried out some resurfacing work on Dieppe Boulevard and Pascal Street. And as part of our asset management program, we switched out the membrane for the swimming pool at the Aquatic and Sports Center. That cost $400,000. And we renewed 13 pieces of municipal fleet equipment. In terms of objective number 3, stimulating land development and so forth, we're talking about downtown business park, the industrial park, etc. We reviewed and updated our downtown investment incentive policies, working again with expansion Dieppe. We saw private investment in the business and industrial parks worth $23.56 million. We acquired land in the downtown area, and we organized, and again, working with Expansion Dieppe, and participated in networking meetings with business partners in the region. Objective number 4, to improve and optimize existing infrastructure and add new infrastructure. What we did in this area was we built new sport fields, so a new artificial turf field and a cricket court as well. We also improved the identification of the Rotary St. Anselm's Park's various offerings through new signage. We completed the Burke Road reconstruction project. We modified lanes on Dieppe Boulevard between Champlain and Ruffin Streets, and we improved access between Dieppe Boulevard and du Golf Street. Now, in terms of quality citizen participation, there were 2 objectives. So 1, to increase citizen participation in municipal decision-making, and 2, to continue to diversify communication tools with residents. So with regard to objective number 1, we launched a public participation web platform called Dieppe Dialogue. And thanks to that tool, we were able to plan, prepare, and coordinate 5 projects. The community recreation programming project, sanitation, urban forestry, use of outdoor fire pits, and a consultation on dog feces on trails. With respect to objective number 2, we redesigned the Dieppe.ca website. We launched the Dieppe Connect Facebook page for our community organizations, and we reviewed the emergency communications plan. We also enhanced our social media presence. So for our Facebook page in 2022, we had 2,211 new followers join us. So that's an increase of 14.74%. So now we have more than 17,000 followers. Into Instagram, we had 428 new followers, and on Twitter, we had a 3.7% increase. We published, we had 489 posts on our Facebook website, 56 on Instagram, and 355 Twitter, and in both languages. With regard to quality municipal governance and management, or quality governance and municipal management, we have 4 objectives. So 1, to continue to improve the transparency of municipal governance, provide constant attention and support to our staff, which are the municipality's most important asset in the service of our residents, and to continue our efforts to achieve sound financial management at all levels of organization, and then 4, to continuous improvement of our working methods and processes. So with respect to objective number 1, and the transparency, no, we didn't complete this in 22, but we started the review of the Code of Conduct for elected officials, and we established a cooperation agreement with the University of Moncton for training on emergency measures. We're also, and this is in progress, but we're reviewing the granting policy for community organizations. And we are working with the University of Moncton to revise document management to facilitate access to information for residents. Now, in terms of objective number 2, providing constant attention and support to our human resources, we implemented a new organizational structure in 2022. We rebuilt the HR team from top to bottom, and now we have 3 new people out of a team of 4. And this team developed its relationship with the union reps. We restructured the fire department as well, and we conducted a number of workplace and job evaluations. Now, in terms of objective number 3, what we did was we revised the emergency department deployment model. We analyzed the impacts of local governance structuring. We reduced the gap between the amount required and invested in the asset management plan. Reduced our debt ratio from 25% to 10%. And we were able to put money aside in the financial reserve for recreation. So $1.5 million for the recreation plan and $1 million for the active transportation plan. To with respect to objective number 4, our employees on the ground receive training on safe needle collection and homeless outreach. There was an internal audit of occupational health and safety, and we scored 99% on that. We improved the Dieppe mag production process. And we worked on a regional approach to municipal emergency management. We also have Amélioration Dieppe, or Dieppe improvement. In 2022, there were 33 continuous improvement projects that were identified within the city. So 12 of those were completed, 7 are still underway, and 14 have not yet started, but we're working on that for 2023. So that's pretty much for our achievements with regard to strategic planning for 2022. Do you have any question?
Question from councillors. Mr. Lantaigne. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With regards to the recreational plan, as far as I understand, the final plan was not presented. No, it is still being finalized, but we have allotted funds to make sure that we have the capacity to put initiatives in place. The plan should be coming in the next few weeks. I understand that it's taking a bit longer, but we do have a new management team, and that's why that's part of the process. Question, we've been waiting for that for a long time, and we're hoping to see that in a timely manner. Answer, yes, as I mentioned, the question was asked last week, so we will be presenting you a draft of the bylaw in April, and we hope it will be adopted if councillors are comfortable with the content. We're working on the bylaw project, and we want to make sure we can implement it. We will ask you to consider adoption in April. We had set April as a target back in October. Question. With regards to Francophone immigration, there are initiatives that have been undertaken, as I see, and that's fantastic. You mentioned that we had positive results. Do we have any statistics about this? For example, do we know how many families immigrated here in the last year? Answer, I don't have exact numbers, but this is something we can look into. Question, it's important to continue those efforts. We know how important it is. Mr. Richard might have additional information. Answer: yes, thank you for the question. The timing of your question is good. We will have a presentation next Monday about our immigration directive, and we will have some figures to present you then. Question: one last point. There was a restructuring in the last year, and now we have new deputy directors. Is it possible to send us the new org chart? That way we could know all of the directors and who reports to them. There are many new people that have been joining the team. They've been introduced, but it would be helpful to see this and get used to the new changes. It would help us stay updated. Answer: we will share that with you next week. Thank you. That's all for me right now. Thank you, Madame Godbout. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to thank the team. I'm always impressed to see the results that we achieve in a single year. It's good to showcase the ideas that we've had and to see everything we've achieved. So thank you, first of all, to the team for this excellent work. These are good results. When I see this, sometimes I find you're a little hard on yourselves. You don't pat yourselves on the back enough because there are results that we've achieved that aren't in this document. For example, we talked about focusing on citizen engagement and a feeling of belonging. Well, what about welcoming new residents? This is something that is important. People started arriving in January, but we planned in advance of their arrival. We wanted to welcome them. So there are things beyond what we're seeing here. Please don't hesitate to include them in your reports. Be proud of all of the work that you're doing, because when I see this, I would add some more. I understand that you have to synthesize, but I want to tell you that I've seen other achievements that aren't in this document, and I think residents would like to hear about them. I have one follow-up question. It's about page 15 on page 4. On page 15 for it's about mobility and sustainable areas. So I'd like to understand better how we're going to leverage this expertise that we have. What will this look like this year and in the future? Answer from Mr. Richard. Well, this is a new position. So having a director of active transportation is part of the plans we set in 2015. We need to use this information, validate that it's correct. So our director has experience with such projects. Jeremy's mandate is mainly to change the culture, to change the way people move around in Dieppe. So we'll use his expertise, yes, but we need to work together with other service areas that also have expertise and a role to play in realizing this mandate. That's how we'll have the resources and the tools in place to move forward. Right now, Jeremy is gleaning all of the knowledge that we have here in Dieppe, and one of his first mandates will be to create an action plan to see how we can seize the opportunities that we have. Would it be to fund new infrastructure through federal grants? He'll be here on Monday with a plan and a vision to renew our public transit system. It's an ambitious plan, and he'll be presenting that. And that's part of Jeremy's mandate. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I want to say that Jeremy's does have expertise, but he's here to help us get the capacity and to get everyone to participate both internally and with external partners so that we can focus on mobility. Question, if I may. Let's talk about economic development and prosperity. On point 2, we wanted to develop an environment conducive to business development through a culture of innovation and creativity. I was wondering this, in terms of net numbers, departures and arrivals. With the pandemic, we're always trying to understand what's going on with the economic development of our communities. So I would like to know if we're still in the black when we consider net figures. Do we have any more information on that so that we can understand our situation? Answer from the Expansion Dieppe team. These people are more up to date on this data. Answer. Thank you, Marie-Claude. This is these are figures we're trying to get a better grasp on. Currently, we're not taking into consideration businesses that are leaving. We don't have a system to track these events as they happen, but we do have a project with the community college with their students to see if with new tools and technologies we can get better data about these activities. We're trying to build a student project to get better tools in this direction. Question. It's so interesting. This data is so important, especially for economic development. This would help us on a regional level as well. So when we have regional priorities, we want to make sure that our city's needs are met as well. So I'm glad to see you keeping an eye on these ideas. And when I think about it, I feel like we are lacking some data. We have to keep an eye on what we might lose. You know, we don't always have winning stories with entrepreneurship here, but there are companies that succeed and those that don't, and we should keep track of that. I believe that's it. That's really answer. That's really an excellent point, and thank you for saying it. As much as we love seeing businesses thrive in Dieppe, it's important to know who arrives and who leaves and why. When we will have the right tools, because we don't have everything we need right now, we don't have the data we need. Sometimes we do better than Statistics Canada, and sometimes we don't. But it's not just about the numbers, though. We need to understand why businesses would leave. And as a city, we need to understand how we can adapt our service offering to keep them here. Some people, some businesses might not be a fit here, but having more information would allow us to ask ourselves the right questions. Mr. Godet for a question. My question is for the net zero renovation project. How long has this been going on? How long has this system been in action? It was implemented in 2022. So that was set up and now it functions. Well, I guess what I'd like to know is, will we be able to recoup our investment? The projections that we set, I can confirm that we'll be able to recoup our investments. Thank you. I think this is one of the good partnerships that we have with the Canadian Federation of Municipalities. They have an excellent program with regards to green energy and green priorities. They're good partners for us. And we have discussions for future projects as well. Are you talking about the Green Fund from the CFM? Question from Ms. Turgeon-Roy. I had the same question about the feeling of belonging and citizen participation. I think it would be great. Well, actually, I have a question. would it be a good idea to repeat this activity for new residents that move to Dieppe? We're not just talking about immigration. There are people that move here from other cities. I think this is a great initiative, and I think we could do it more than once, maybe even twice a year, and not just in the winter time during snowstorms. I mean, I know that was happenstance this year, but all that to say that I appreciate this type of project. Also, I'd like to draw a connection with number 4 to maximize the use of public facilities, community facilities, and green spaces. There's a question that I was having about Place 504. Now that we have the partnership with the Centre des Arts et de la Culture, I was wondering if there were any initiatives for the 2023 season. I know that there were renovations last year and construction, but it would be nice to have something permanent that always brings life to downtown. So that was a comment I had about that. And that we're really thrilled to collaborate with the artistic director, and the art center could be promoted a little bit more in the next few years, and we should keep an eye on it for next summer. So I'd like also to thank everyone for this summary. It's nice to see an overview of the last year and see everything that we've realized. Thank you to the team. Thank you. I see no other people who are asking to speak. So we'll thank you for this excellent presentation and thank staff and management for the work that was accomplished over the last year. Indeed, we have higher expectations for the year to come, so keep it up. This is what we call continuous improvement. Okay, so there you have it. Thank you to all of you. Our next presenters, I don't know if they're in person. Oh, they're in the next room. Okay, they're waiting patiently. Maybe Sean will need to support them in preparing their presentation. So while we wait for our guests to set up, which is a presentation for the Kodiak Regional Policing Agency. They will talk about it. They will be talking to us about their strategic planning. This tells me that Don Moore will be here, but I don't see him. Did you swap him out? What did you get? What did you get for the trade? 2 rotten apples? It's a shame he's not here. He would have appreciated that joke. So, representing the police authority, please identify yourselves, introduce yourselves, and then from there you'll have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, councilors. Thank you for having us this evening. My name is Scott Steves, and I'm representing the CRPA this evening. The reason I'm here is I'm the chair of the Quality Policing Committee. So the KPIs, the key performance indicators, are one of those things that I oversee, as well as the entire CRPA when we present it and we vote on it. So I guess that's my cup of tea. I will be honest, I'm new. I started on the CRPA approximately 8-9 months ago. I became the chair approximately 6 months ago, and it's been a huge learning curve, but it's been a wonderful experience, and I'm just learning so much about this whole process. So it's been a great experience, and hopefully I'll be serving this role for a few more years to come, and I'm sure I'll get better at it as we go. I would like to introduce Charles Savoie. He's with the RCMP. He's the Director of Strategic Planning and Policing Support Services. He's going to do a presentation on a couple of things. He's going to discuss the roles of the 5 new police officers that were going to be put into place on April 1st. He's also going to talk about our key performance indicators that are in draft form right now. We're still working on it, and that's one of the goals of tonight's meeting, is to get some feedback from you. ask questions. Charles is here to answer those questions. I'll be taking notes and taking your feedback so I can bring it back to the committee to share with them, and I'll ultimately sharing with the CRPA board. So without further ado, I'll present Charles Savoie.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Bonsoir, Monsieur Savoie.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Savoie. As he mentioned, we'll go through all of this. I think you can see the screen. Can you see the screen? I believe that Sean will be sharing it on our screens. Okay, so we'll have it on our individual screens. Or we could all huddle together and look at one.
C'est comme ça, c'est le conseiller Brideau qui contrôle tout.
This is the man who controls everything.
L'homme à tout faire.
He's a real handyman.
Là, vous pouvez le voir là maintenant.
Okay, so now you can see the presentation? Okay, so this evening we will go through the indicators. We want to get your feedback. Usually when we do KPIs, some of them are good for counselors and some of them are good for criminologists, some are good for the police. So we're going to try and find a happy medium here. See, if you see on the left, the big C means counselors or council. So I think these are the points that would interest you the most. And then there's some at the end that might interest criminologists or other groups. They might be less interesting to you. We can still go through them, but if you are not seeing the KPIs that your residents are asking you about or information you need more of, I think that's the basket that they'll fall into. So as you know, we have 5 new members, 5 new agents that are already on site. So we already had a few extra players with an overstaff strategy. So those people had to be sent beyond Kodiak to reduce our budget. That was the goal, and this is the first time it actually has worked. So the 5 people that we were missing, we will get in April. We already had them, but they're coming back from a post elsewhere. You know, this can normally take up to a year to recruit agents, but in this case, we will have these 5 agents back by April 1st. So that's just an aside I wanted to share with you. So for those 5 new agents, within Kodiak, there's a patrol team and then there's a specialized service team. So that would be community policing, investigations, drugs, etc. And then for patrol, well, they're patrolling the streets. So those 5 new people will be in the specialized policing service and they'll be focused on drugs and community policing starting April 1st. Beyond that, there are 4 that will not be paid for by the city or by Kodiak that are being provided or funded by the province. And I think this is where you'll see the greatest difference in the figures from here until next year. We are expecting them to be joining the drugs team. So we'll be looking at the drugs KPIs. So if you add those 4 to the 5, we'll have an increase in numbers. So the number of impaired driving charges per special operation. This is new. I think that for city councilors, it's the number of operations per month that's interesting for you. Criminologists want to know how many we catch per operation. Does it go up or not? So these 5 extra agents will increase the number of operations we can execute per week or per month. Last year, there were about 3 special operations per month, and we think we'll be able to increase to 7 or 9 each month. And so now you see 7 here in the target column. So we're expecting it to stay at 7, and we're expecting that number to go down, but we're trying to have a standard for special operations, like it would be a day of the week or whatnot. But one thing that is always constant is how long it is. It's 3 hours. So in terms of drugs or impaired driving, this could be drugs or alcohol. The second one is the percentage of property crimes solved within the last 12 months. You'll see that 21% is not very high when it comes to property. Often no one has seen anything, there's no serial numbers, so there's no camera, so it's very difficult to solve these crimes. Or sometimes it's for objects that are not of a high value, um, and that's why the number is so low, and the solve rate is lower compared to 0.4, which is crimes against persons. That's easier to solve because there's more information available. Usually our success rate there is higher. And that's why, at 21% for property crime, it's not as high, but is also within Canadian averages. So again, it seems low, but it's what we expect. Now, with the new agents, we believe that our percentages for these 2 categories, lines 2 and 4, should go up because we'll have more boots on the ground. These, again, will be part of the special police teams. With these added people, we think we'll be able to solve a higher rate of crimes in the 12-month period. The number rate of property crimes will not really be affected by the new agents. The more the population grows, the more crime we expect. Maybe they'll see more agents around and it'll have a deterrent effect, but we're not really expecting a marked difference. Same thing for number 5. We suspect that there will still be domestic violence, crimes against people anywhere. We don't think that 5 new agents in 1 year will really make a difference on this figure. It could over time, when we add agents in subsequent years, there might be an effect. But I will say that our solve rate will be the most affected by our added staff. Now let's speak to number 6. So our response times for priority calls will be improved. These are calls for the patrol team, so calls to 911. This is not special police services that will go out first. They might go after second or third calls. So having more patrol people could help reduce. Over time, there could be more people on shift, but we still think that we can do a little bit better. It's not a huge difference, but we do think there should be some effect. Number 7, this is new. It's the average crime severity rate. I think that as city councilors, you often get questions about the crime severity rate. For many years, we've been saying that these numbers and the information that's given to Stats Canada doesn't show us in a fair light. Because we're the RCMP, we do things differently. The way we codify our crimes is different. we have national standards and rules that we have to follow, which is not the case for other municipalities. So for many years, we've been trying to find a way to assess our crimes beyond the crime severity rate index. So this is a request that we have made. They're going to try and find a way to assess crimes differently. So instead of being the third, we were the seventh best in the country, which makes more sense when you look at the data. So that's something that they will be able to present to you because I'm certain there would be questions about that. So that's number 7. We are hoping that the results will be positive and will demonstrate that our crime rate is not worse than Toronto, for example. We know that we're not as bad as Toronto, but StatsCan statistics makes it seem like we are. So with the University of Moncton, we can get to the bottom of this once and for all. Point number 8, the number of chargeable drug occurrence that lead to charges. We think that with our 5 new agents, especially in the special section, and including the 4 others, here we will see a big difference. Even since January, we have seen a big difference in the number of crimes that we're able to charge. So we think that this will be increased by our 5/9 new agents.
Comme qu'on a déjà dit, par exemple,
And
des fois,
no, sometimes that number could increase, and the amount of crime or drugs in the Kodiak region could double next year. It's difficult to control. So it's not necessarily an accurate figure, but we go based on the number of offenses and the charges. So we'll see. So 8 and KPI and 4, there we hope to be able to settle more cases quickly. Now, if you go to 9 and further down that page and on to the next page, is there a way that I can advance the slide? There we go. Okay. So number 9 and number 10 are basically the same thing. This is the same survey that we do every year. We did it again this year. But all of those numbers are related to governance and it's to, but they're less, these KPIs are less about questions that counselors would receive. But so the CRPA wants to have these KPIs, but the first ones that we looked at, and if you have others that you want us to know about, we can add them to the list as well. And we can bring them to board and see if we can add them. But so I'm not going to continue on with this because I'm pretty sure that these will remain in there. They've been asked by the board and by the criminologist. But so I'll ask you, do you have any questions? Are there any other KPIs that you'd like us to add? Or any questions about the current KPIs? Any questions from councillors? Comments? Anything? We'll take anything. Mr. Godet. Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question. No, in April, if I understand correctly, we'll have 5 more officers, and they're all going to go to specialized services? Okay, so we're not going to have more traffic police. No, the 5, where we're really going to see a difference is in drug infractions. That's what we really wanted to hit. But next year, and I think the drug section, the 5 new officers and 4 after that, we could look at our KPIs again and look at traffic more. Well, I'm not an expert, but the most complaints that we have are about speeding and so forth. So there won't be any more police presence in the city. Well, it's difficult to say. There might be more drug officers in the community looking around, but sitting in a car with a speed gun, not necessarily. But there might be a bigger police presence, but not necessarily immediately for traffic concerns. No. One of the KPIs, and I think it is number 12, that's the only KPI that's traffic related. And that number has kind of stayed stable in recent years. There hasn't been a major increase and that means that there's not a huge increase of people that are driving using their cell phones but we could add a KPIs if we want to show the difference, the different types of infractions. We could do that. Thank you. All right, Ms. Godbout. Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to share with the other councillors that, that what we're seeing here are key performance indicators. And I think in the past, we wanted to review those KPIs. And I think the time is good. If you speak with people and if you have other indicators that you'd like to see or that you'd like to have access to, or that you'd like the CRPA to follow up, now is the time to do it because there's an openness. We have an excellent committee that was formed and that's doing this work. And we're trying to find out what are the good indicators, what are the right indicators to use. Sometimes, we're given a certain amount of information, but the question is like, what kind of information can we get from these KPIs? We talked about University of Moncton professors and criminologists, and that's interesting. But I think what we can do to contribute and help is to challenge things and to question these KPIs. So if you do have questions, now is the time. Don't be shy. Ask people what worries them, because that's what we want to see here. There's a lot of openness to go in to identify missing KPIs. And we want you to get the information that you need too, so that you can answer residents that are reaching out to you. But I think what we have here is quite interesting, and we'll have a chance to come back to this as well in the future. Ms. Turgeon-Roy, thank you, Your Worship. I don't know if this is the place to talk about this, but since you've opened the door, in terms of performance indicator, I'm not seeing anything regarding awareness building, community education, what's being done. I know that, we talk about this, we've been talking about this regularly, that, 8 officers are in the schools, but I think that would be important for us to be able to see that, what is being done in terms of prevention. And I don't see that here. I just see kind of after the fact data. That's important too, but what I have questions, what I get as questions is from the immigrant population. So we need to do awareness raising with that segment of the population as well, because from what I understand, that there's a certain fear of police officers. So I don't know, is anything being done in that regard? In regard to awareness building, telling people that the police are not bad. Those are good suggestions, and that's not the first time I've heard that. So we can certainly go and take a look at what's being done in terms of communications and outreach and that type of thing in terms of immigrants. And so I've made a note of it. Ms. Godbout. You're back. Okay, that's an excellent question, actually, Councillor. I know that there have been initial discussions some of this is like key performance indicators, you know, safety, what's happening in our city, what's happening in terms of crime, but versus assessment or evaluation of what the police is doing. And what you're talking about, part of that can kind of go into that evaluation basket. And it can be done without or outside of KPIs. But I think your point is right on. I think the question we have to ask is what you're asking for has to be in KPIs, or is that more like of an evaluation question? So we're kind of dependent on our experts in that regard. But I think that's kind of the question. Where do we put these information? You know, I think for a long time there was criticism that there were not a lot of police officers around schools. Maybe, you know, a decade or 10 or 12 years ago, and that would come up regularly. Or the police officers would go into various schools, Mathieu Martin and lower grade levels, to talk to young people. But how do we measure the impact of that in the short and long term? I think that would be something interesting to look at as well. Now that we have more employees, and that's, you know, this is what we hear every week, and I believe them. There are visits and patrols going on, and I think it would be interesting to be able to see the impact, and to be able to speak with people who were contacted, maybe on an anonymous basis or something like that. But it would be good to get a bit of feedback. Well, you know, we look at youth, and we look at the number of youth that we deal with, and how many come back within, you know, 3-6 months. So now it would be interesting to see, like, so if we go certain intervals to Mathieu Martin, it'd be interesting to see if we have less youth getting in trouble with the police. So, but there are a number of people who are not happy that we're in the school and that they want us to stop visiting the schools immediately. So that's why we need data to show that we're making a difference, because there's already there's always people on the other side that you know, that think all we do is handcuff young people, and so that's why it's important to have data on this type of thing. Mr. Brideau, thank you, Your Worship. Richard, I want to come back to the idea of 5 agents or officers going to the specialized operations. This fall, there were house parties and kind of people hanging out in the neighborhood, and that there was a smell of drugs. But those 5 officers, would they intervene in that type of situation? Well, the 4 new ones, yes, especially. That when there's open drug use, you know, if it's visible that our people are engaging in drug activity, that is what their focus is going to be on specifically. But so they do patrols, and they respond to calls, and they look into those instances where you can see people consuming drugs. It was difficult for me to respond to the complaint. You know, I thought, well, should I go to the house myself to see what was happening? Or was it, you know, people just simply smoking a joint? So I told them I'd get back to them. So for me, it's important to know, you know, and I'm sure this is going on in different places in the city. Yes, I'm sure of that as well. Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. Anyone else? Your Worship, I'd like to ask a question, if that's okay. Thank you, Charles. Now this information has been shared with the council. Can we take time to kind of take our time to kind of think about it? And if we have additional questions later on, can we pass them on to you? Yes, of course. It's good, you know, it's good to have kind of an immediate response, but it's also good to have time to kind of think about these things. Yeah, and that's what we want as well. So there are things, there's information or feedback that you can give us. All right, so if you have comments, send them to me and I can send them along to Richard. Ms. Godbout. Thank you. And on that point, I want to bring that up, that in terms of governance, we brought this up. This is, the committee worked on this. This is the first time I'm seeing this in this document. I asked at the last meeting if this document would be tabled at the next meeting. So you know, we're bringing, this is a preliminary draft, and as a member of the council, I don't sit on that committee, so I haven't seen this. So you really are one of the first groups to see this document and to be able to provide feedback. So the committee will be presenting this document later on and then it will come up at the next meeting for adoption. So there will be time to kind of adjust this document and to ask questions. We really want to have a consultation here. We don't want to just, this is not just like a check the box exercise. We want your feedback. So this version, I can send it to you, yes. All right, I will share this with those who are absent as well, the councillors who are absent tonight. All right, thank you for the presentation. I think it's a step in the right direction. Thank you to all of you. And I think that brings this meeting to a close. Thank you to everyone for being here. Don't forget that tonight is the Mardi Gras. So if that's still being celebrated, so have a nice rest of your evening.